Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Your Wellbeing Hub's podcast. It's great to be back. Dominic and I are going to be having another chat today. It is Men's Health Week this week, and so we want to take the opportunity to have a chat about connection because the theme this year is shoulder to shoulder connecting for health. But before we dive in, Dominic, it's great to see you again. How have you been doing?
Lovely, yeah. Enjoying the weather on and off. So we can't necessarily plan the barbecues, but when it's hot, I do like to get in the sunshine for my mood and health and well-being. So I know you've been enjoying it a little bit, haven't you, as well? The weather.
100%, 100%. As soon as that sun is shining, it definitely increases how you feel, right? Mood
Yeah,
boost
yeah,
and feelings of optimism and longer evenings. Yeah, it's just,
yeah.
I
It's
love the
good.
summer, I have to
It's
say.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
Good.
Before we dive in, Dominic, I don't want to kind of batter your introduction. So do you
Yeah,
want
don't
to
worry.
just tell us about a little bit about you, what you do and what you're about?
Okay, so I work with clients and I provide positive change programs for both men and women, helping them in three areas: relationships, health and wealth slash career. And I work with the subconscious using hypnotherapy, also neurolinguistic programming with clients. I like to think of myself moving towards more of a almost a Carl Rogers type of a theme, who was a famous therapist, which is more person-centered therapy. So it's not me just directly telling the clients what to do. Yes, there is some accountability because all of us won't do anything if we haven't got anyone to be accountable to, you
Mm,
know. So I help people actually realize who they are,
mm,
because some of their past experiences may pollute their present, which does affect their relationships. But as I say to all clients, the biggest relationship is with yourself. Perception is projection. So I help clients feel better about themselves. And a big one for both male and females is self confidence.
mhm.
I'll just refer you back to the last Mission Impossible film with Tom Cruise. Could have been a female, but we're just talking about Tom Cruise at the moment, men's health. He looked pretty confident, I thought, hundreds of feet up, climbing outside of a biplane, you know, and ladies in the audience and men are like, "Oh my gosh," they're quite impressed by that.
Yeah.
So I think confidence for both sexes, both genders, is important. So I help people become more confident,
Mhm.
which then opens more doors because you, I'm not necessarily saying you're going to be fearless, but
Mm.
those self-conscious shackles are let go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Amazing.
that's me, and I'm based near the NEC, but I do travel to clients around the country.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that because it's so true. There's so much that we pick up along the way, isn't there? And like you
Yeah,
say, kind of
yeah,
like the shackles, you're not really living your true self and
yeah,
yeah, being your true self. So that's
yeah,
amazing. Amazing that you can support people on that journey and finding their true
yeah.
authentic self. Love it.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Fabulous. Okay, so it is Men's Health Week. Thought we'd together
Yeah.
have a chat about connection. So as our starting point, I thought it might be quite a good place to start. Why might some men struggle with connection and connecting with others?
Um, from my experience and male clients, and even the female clients who tell me their utmost secrets about relationships, I think men are expected to have an identity, a certain identity, and this comes under three P's, as I call it. So they are expected, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, of course. Um, I'm not speaking for all men or women, but I think they're expected to provide, to protect, and procreate. And we sort of had a laugh at the beginning. I said not necessarily in that order.
Mhm.
And I will add in my line of work, and I'll state that attraction isn't a choice, it's unconscious. So that's where we've got to be careful, both male and females, that we find the right partner.
Mhm.
We don't repeat, or repetition compulsion, as Freud said, repeat traumas.
Mhm.
Bring a current partner into our life that is like mum or dad, but
Mhm.
the traits we didn't like in mum or dad, we can bring into a current partner
Okay.
and try and fix that wrong from 25 years ago or 30 years ago, like me, or whatever it is.
Mhm.
So we've got to be aware.
Mhm.
So I think guys are becoming aware now
Mhm.
of those three P's.
Mhm.
Does that mean, is that right or wrong for them? Yes, I think women, I'm generalizing, expect men to provide. So the cost of living at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a big one. That's stressing a lot of men and women out, I might
Mm-hmm.
add. You
Yeah.
know, not forgetting the women, single moms, etc., and single dads.
Mm-hmm.
Protection is a big one. I won't say too much. There's a lot going on in this country at the moment. And men quite rightly want to protect women of all cultures, I might add.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying women are weak, trust me, you know, but genetically, generally, women's leg strength are basically the same as man's.
Mm-hmm.
Upper body, maybe not so much because of testosterone levels,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So that's where that comes in from the old caveman times to protect women,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I think a woman expects to be protected.
Okay.
And on that note, if the guy, like I have at times, because of whatever it is, feels vulnerable or emotional or upset, I think we feel, I'm doing the royal we here, we feel as men, sorry guys, I'm sort of generalizing, that we can't always share our uttermost secrets, you know, vulnerability,
Mm-hmm.
our weaknesses maybe, because we're worried that the woman may lose attraction for us.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you typify a woman, cave woman, looking at the guy, she's looking at maybe the broader guy, the guy with the brow. You can look it up with a, you know, a rugby type brow,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a deep voice. You know, these are all markers of high testosterone,
Mm-hmm.
which leads me into the last P, procreate. You know,
Yeah.
so you know, it is about connection that way. So reproduction.
Mm.
You know, the guy's got to be healthy. I mean, I've got no hair, forgive me. and guys will be looking at, you've got great hair there, Sally, I might say. Guys are looking at women, have they got glossy hair? How do they look? You know, waist to hip ratio. You know, I'm stereotypically, you know, talking about childbearing hips or whatever.
Mm.
And a woman may well be listening to the guy's voice. Does he sound masculine?
Mm.
You know, that there are opposites. We've got female, we've got male.
Mm.
And both of them have got certain characteristics that are attractive because the woman is, sorry, some women, they're not as hairy as me. That's the attraction.
Mm.
The woman will tell you, I'm going to put this out there. Some women will say, yeah, we like that hairy forearm, or that's a man. But so certain markers aren't there. I don't know whether I've answered that correctly, but men may not want to appear vulnerable.
Yeah, with you. I think this is really true. I think there is some kind of wiring that dates back to our ancestors where, yeah, there's things wired into us that we don't necessarily have control of or awareness of. And I think that can be problematic in today's society because, of course, society has changed so much, but our brains haven't evolved in the same way, have they? So we still have that hard wiring where we're looking out for things that isn't necessarily as relevant in today's society, but it's there biologically, isn't it? But yes, I think you're right. I think, you know, that I think men are talking more now than ever, which is fantastic.
Which is
when you think about, you know, 30 years ago or 50 years ago, a lot of progress has been made, but we still know statistically there's lots of problems when it comes to men's health, both physically and mentally as well. So we know that men are less likely to seek help compared to a woman. They may have smaller social networks as well. So for women, it's so much easier to build friendships. I think, you know, on a night out, you can easily say to a woman, "Oh, I love your dress. Where did you get it from?" It'd be very unusual for a man to say, "Oh, I really like your jeans. Where did you get your jeans from?" It's just really not a natural kind of conversation in society. So women can build connections on those kind of conversations quite quickly, whereas it's not really kind of like a normalized thing for men, isn't it? And so, you know, you do have these kind of strong, silent types, you know, that myth where society is really discouraging men to show the emotional vulnerability. But of course, there's lots of effects on health, both physical and mental. And just, you know, I was looking at some research recently, and Men's Health Forum reported that 1 man in 5 dies before the age of 65. You know, that's super young, you know. And 4 in 5 suicides are by men, with suicide the biggest cause of death for men under the age of 35. So we know that disconnection can be hugely problematic if people aren't seeking the help that they need when they need it. So you know, this is a problem. What's the practical advice around how men can build connection? What can they do?
Yeah. Well, You're right on the strong silent type. I'll name a guy that all women know and men. His name is Bond 007. What's he like? Does he chat a lot?
Mm.
He's a man of few words. He's a man of action as well. Relatively handsome, so we'll typify that there. But I think, how do they connect? I think breaking down the social stigmas, like you said, men find it quite hard to maybe compliment another guy, because I don't know if women are aware, but generally in male circles, male banter is quite strong. It's particularly strong. I know women joke, but it's quite, there's quite some barbs going in. There's still a competition sort of thing, and there can be with women, yes, but we're talking about men. How can they? I feel that there's an acronym that Professor Michael Marmot wrote a book called The Health Gap, if the viewers want to look at, and also another book, famous book called The Status Syndrome, Hierarchy on Our Health, where we are in society. And I'll just look at the notes here. 3 things that are crucial for a healthy society, and obviously males are part of the society: health, autonomy, and social engagement. Health, mental and physical, but you've got to feel that you own your SHIT. You're in control, you're confident, males, And also then social engagement, like you said. We've got to be able to feel that we've got groups we can join. A lot of it is sport related, I'd say, for men. Women are coming on strong now with the football and the rugby, which is fantastic. I love to see. But sport is a good release for men.
Yeah.
Because men are quite external. And we were going to talk about this, whether we get it in substance, substance abuse, whether we're going to look at the figures or statistics after this and find out if more men are on drugs than women as such, or a substance. I'm not sure. But, men, I feel, externalize some anger in a certain way. Women can internalize it, but they can share it, like you said, with their cohort, with their social circle. But I think one of the things that I want to put out there to the world, I don't care who's listening, is respect. I respect you, irrespective that you're a female. I call myself a truther. I want society the greater good, like you do, Sally. I want it to be healthy. I want that woman to be able to, I'm not being stereotypical, to walk down the street and she feels that she's not going to be followed home by anyone, shall we say, of whatever culture. And also, I want to be able to walk down the street without, problems.
Yeah.
So it's society as a whole, but then you've got to look to government. So I've got to be careful what I say in how they control society. But I'll leave that one there for the viewers to discuss.
Yeah. I think you're right when it comes to building connection. I think sport can play such a big part in life in both men and women, but you just build those natural bonds with people you might play rugby with or football with or tennis or whatever. I think we know that exercise broadly is fantastic for your mental well-being and your physical well-being anyway. You can build your connections through that kind of sports network, or groups, like you said, there might be an online platform, but equally, Andy's Man Club has absolutely boomed over the last few years, hasn't it? Everywhere. And that's an opportunity for, if a man doesn't want to speak to their partner because they're worried about how they might see them, Monday night, 7 o'clock locally, going to a group, you don't have to say anything, but just being with other men who are talking about their vulnerabilities can create that safety. You can start to see the trust when people share their vulnerabilities, it creates safety for others to share their vulnerabilities. And that's where, men's sheds or Andy's Man Club or a walking group could be, brilliant for someone. Just recently in the We Love Reigate group, there's a new kind of dads club, and they're working together on a regular basis. And their posts out, and I think it was cancelled at the weekend because of the awful weather. But there's an opportunity for dads to get together and just rant and vent or have a coffee or whatever that might be. So it's really taking those informal opportunities in the community, I think, to get together as well. But it might be formalized one-to-one, like you said. It could be therapy. It could be working with someone like you as well, with the NLP and hypnotherapy and whatever else. Let's normalize reaching out and
yeah,
seeking that support.
yeah,
The
yeah.
benefits are absolutely huge.
And I think not on the dark side, but on the negative side of this, we are talking like this. So if any viewers are listening to us and they want to reach out, I'm not going to charge.
Mm.
If they're in a difficult position, you're going to reach out to myself or
Yeah.
Sally and have a chat. Dependent on the circumstances, obviously, there's certain situations, but there are all of the numbers to call. And I think Sally may put this on this particular one, the Samaritans, all the numbers they can call. But
Yeah.
if they need to reach out, you need to reach out to a male or a female.
Mm.
And also in particular within the family. I urge people, men, to, if they're stuck, to reach out. You've got to speak to somebody.
Yeah.
We don't want the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to be put across more and more. So we're more caring in society with that.
Mm.
And this is something I try and do. In no way am I perfect, not at all. I try and be, and it's not a crass comment, but it's an old chestnut. I try and be the change I want to see.
Yeah.
So again, we don't know what somebody's going through.
No.
So it's offering that smile, that support, maybe slowing down a little bit, because I feel society, I've said it a million times, is eating too fast, talking too fast, drinking too fast, sleeping too fast, driving too fast. My pet hate, and especially talking too fast. You're not going to listen to the other person. So there's a lot where we can hold space for somebody, I think.
Yeah.
And that's maybe slowing life down. But one of the biggest things is a sentence is it Eckhart Tolle's book, The New Earth? Awareness is the greatest agent of change. So I'm not trying to think of just me, selfish Dominic. You've got to think of somebody else.
Yeah.
Because I do believe in karma, which is a conversation for another time, and
Mm-hmm.
that will come back towards you.
Yeah.
In both ways, if
Yeah.
you're negative or positive,
Yeah.
hopefully positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's so much in there around, if you're carrying something alone, it feels heavier and heavier and deeper. Whereas if you're carrying it with somebody, you feel supported, and it's a biological need. Building relationships. I think sometimes people think, oh, it's just a nice to have. It's really not. We're social creatures. We're biologically wired to be in groups, and if that's not present, then the physical health consequences and the mental health consequences are absolutely huge. There's loads of research around if we have stronger social ties, our physical outcomes are that much better. So, that 1 man in 5 who dies before the age of 65, we might see that reduce. The number of suicides we could start to see reduce as we start to share these deep feelings with others. It doesn't solve it immediately, but it just helps share the load, doesn't it? And that biological need is being met. And actually, if we do have those strong social ties, if we're part of something bigger, we tend to have more meaning and a sense of purpose. And for men, having a sense of purpose in life is so, so important. It's very dangerous if a man doesn't have a sense of purpose. So having that connection, whether you're playing football a couple of times a week, whether you're part of a workplace group, whether you're part of a working group, a walking group, it doesn't matter. But where we're part of something bigger, we tend to have more of a sense of purpose, and that is vital to a man's mental health and well-being.
And that is a big one, a concern for me, the United Kingdom at the moment. Yeah, you want all men on the same page. You want them to protect the females, and you want them to respect the females. But I'll just leave that there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So on a serious note, we want a better UK, a safer UK. So that requires all in society, integrating, connecting with one another.
Yeah.
In a good way. I think the word respectful, I think that is key.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. It's massive, isn't it? Massive.
Yeah.
And earlier on you mentioned, about substances, and that can become problematic. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't love a glass of wine, because I do love a glass of wine.
Liquid therapy.
But after a heavy week, I might have a glass of wine, but it kind of ends there. I have the opportunity to talk to people about how I'm feeling, but we know that for for men it is harder still to do that, and so they
Yeah,
might engage in those behaviors to
yeah,
get that sense of solace, or to get that sense
yeah,
of calm, or to try
yeah,
to manage and cope with those feelings. But if that starts to become problematic, where it's habitual and then leading into dependency,
yeah,
that raise all sorts of issues and risk as well to physical health and mental health too. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
we really
And
need to kind of, it is Men's Health Week, but this conversation needs to keep going and going and going.
definitely,
Outcomes.
I think we'll have to do a part 1 to part 3, and it involve
Oh,
women's health as well. So we get this fine balance, and I think balance is a key word as well. Like you said, it's okay the guy having a pint or wine or whatever he has,
mm,
but if that leads to several, um, and alters his mood in a bad way,
mm,
you know, I'm in this position because of an alcoholic abusive. How many years ago? Good God, 50 years ago. So, well, that was a good thing for me in a way, but I'm not going to go into that now.
yeah.
So we've got to be careful. And also, I'm going to put this out to guys now. Do not say to that guy, if he said, like me, because I'm quite strict, he doesn't want another pint of Guinness, I'll have one for the road, which is a bad word, bad sentence in itself. Don't try and push that drink onto him.
Mm,
That's another one.
mm,
Us men have got to be strong in that way and not try and force our weakness onto somebody else.
mm,
Respect his dislike for having an extra drink. Me, sorry, I was the original Augustus Gloop, so I'm thinking about, yes, I'm driving, so I can only have one,
mm,
but also my Guinness is 250 calories a pop.
mm,
So if I had 4 Guinnesses in one sitting, that's 1,000 calories.
mm.
So I've got a health concern that way, not just the
Yeah,
mental, but literally my gut. So that's a thought.
yeah.
Very, by the way, Guinness, yes, it's a very nice drink, but
Mm,
too much of anything isn't good for you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
Thank you so much. So let's close. What if you could give a man one piece of advice about connection, what would that be?
I'm going to say breath work to
Mm-hmm.
connect with himself, to
Mm,
learn how to do belly breathing or parasympathetic breathing. I'm
mm,
going to shout out to somebody, a company, Reset Retreats or Daniel Edwards. They run somatic breathwork courses for men and women and
mm,
just men. There's a men's health group in Tamworth. Daniel Edwards, you can look him up on Instagram for
mm.
somatic breathwork. Very powerful.
Yeah, amazing. And we
All
haven't
right.
spoken about the connection with self, and that's a great starting point. Let's connect with ourselves.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that's so important. That'll stand
Excellent.
instead. Thank you so much, Dominic.
Okay.
Always chat with you. Really enjoyed it.
God bless. Have a great week.
You too. Thanks so much.
Okay. Bye.